to another edition of Conversations with CASA, a monthly news blog produced by Texas CASA that features information and resources impacting the child welfare community. My name is Vicki Spriggs. I'm the CEO of Texas CASA and your host. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Candice Dosman, Texas CASA Collaborative Family Engagement Director, and Rhonda Kuykendall, our new Anti-Child Trafficking, or CASA ACTs consultant. Rhonda and Candice are currently working to further develop best practices for local programs to be active stakeholders in their local anti-trafficking communities, and to develop a framework for programs and volunteers to be the best advocates for children and youth who have been or are at risk of being trafficked. So let me start by saying to you both, welcome. Thank you so much for being able to join us today.
Thanks for having us, Vicki.
Absolutely. And Rhonda, as a new member of the Texas CASA family, I especially want to thank you and welcome you for joining us in the CASA community. Can you both start by telling our audience a little bit about yourselves and your roles with Texas CASA?
Sure, yeah. So as you said, I'm Candice. I'm the Collaborative Family Engagement Director with Texas CASA. So I oversee the kind of statewide implementation of collaborative family engagement. And in the last year or so, anti-child trafficking work, awareness, prevention has moved under my umbrella as well. So that's what I do. And a big part of that, anti-child trafficking work, really, we wanted to bring in an expert that could really help us lead this initiative and direction for the CASA network. And that is how we found Rhonda. So Rhonda, can you share about yourself?
Sure. I am very excited to join the Texas CASA family. I have been at CASA for a little over 5 years. And I am serving on the board of directors of Child Advocates of Fort Bend. I worked very closely with the legislative advocacy team there. And so I'm also a survivor of sex trafficking, and I'm very excited to work across the state with all of our programs.
Super. So you're no stranger to CASA. You're no stranger to the child welfare system. You're no stranger to the role of CASA volunteers. And Candice certainly is well known by many members of our community because our collaborative family engagement work is spreading across the state. And so this really does bring together all of the best intentions of the CASA community, which is protecting and providing a safe environment for children. We know that January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So we're excited to have you both here to talk about Texas CASA's new anti-child trafficking efforts. So will you please tell our viewers a little bit about what you've been up to and what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, happy to. And I'm glad that you said our efforts, Vicki, because I know I just said initiative, and I don't like to call this an initiative because we don't want it to be something new and different. We really want to support CASA advocacy, to really be survivor-centered and survivor-focused in various ways. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But the CASA network has been involved in anti-child trafficking and exploitation work for a couple of years now. Dallas County, in particular, the Dallas CASA program has done a tremendous amount of work, and we've been learning a lot from Dallas CASA over the last couple of years. One of the really big things that's happened and that has been done is the creation of the e-learning by Saving Innocence in Dallas CASA, which is called the Advocacy for Commercially Sexually Exploited Children, or CSEC. Lots of acronyms, as always, but the CSEC course, which is available in our Learning Center. So that was a great partnership between Texas CASA, Saving Innocence, and Dallas CASA, which provides a great foundation and some real fundamental learning for volunteers that want to learn more about how to advocate for kids that have been trafficked or are at risk. Some other things that we've done or are currently doing, we've hosted other webinars and trainings along with that e-learning that I mentioned. In March last year, which I can't believe is already almost a year ago, we hosted a strategic brainstorming session with local programs. I think we had about 20 attend. And the governor's trafficking office, their team, had those folks on to really talk about what could the role of CASA be in this space and what is the role for advocates and volunteers. So we had that brainstorming session. Texas CASA has been a member of the governor's office statewide task force in this area for a couple of years. We are currently contracting with Dallas CASA as well to help further develop some of our materials. And then, you know, we were using a tool called the CSE-IT tool, and we might talk a little bit more about that, but we've been offering training. That's a screening tool that staff at CASA can use to identify if children or youth are at risk of being trafficked or if they have been. And then the big thing that, you know, I'm most excited about at this moment is contracting with Rhonda to really help us figure this all out. It's a really big space, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to do, but there's a lot that CASA can be involved in. And so I'm really pleased that Rhonda's here to help us with that. So that's some of kind of what we've been doing so far. What we're doing kind of right now as we're focusing in with Rhonda and Rhonda's contract in the next year together. You know, with January being that Prevention and Awareness Month, as you mentioned, we're really trying to do a lot on social media. You know, this recording here, we're hosting a webinar on January 31st from 2 to 3:30 Central, which you'll be able to see more info on the calendar on our website as well, but bringing in some stakeholders to talk about how we're all working together. So that's coming up. We're also working with the department on an MOU to really focus in on how we're going to work together for, you know, this anti-child trafficking work, and really focusing in on building those partnerships with our various stakeholders in the state.
Super.
So that's a lot. I don't know if you have any questions, but you know that.
Well, that is a lot. And I would say that this is so important because, well, I can say why, but I'm going to ask Rhonda to speak to that. Why is this important in the foster care arena, this anti-child trafficking?
We know that foster kids disproportionately are affected by child sex trafficking. And so we have the skills through our CASA network to be able to intervene and to work with them. And that's what the CSE-IT is supposed to do, you know, to help us identify as early as possible. Once they are identified, to be able to receive services very, very quickly. That makes a huge difference. Kids are amazingly resilient, and we have the staff and we have to do ahead of us.
Super, thank you. And I know that sometimes young people are trafficked and they don't even consider themselves as being trafficked, which is what makes all this important. And I think the other part that makes all of this important is this work really does require the coordination and collaboration, if you will, of the Child Protective Services system, because once that assessment is done, getting those services for that child really becomes important as well. Are there any other, like, I know, Rhonda, you're really working on getting local programs involved and building that connection with the multidisciplinary teams. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. You know, the first and foremost thing, we want to be able to support our local programs. We want to teach them how to join disciplinary teams, sharing the contacts that we have, who is in their area, and even templates that show the protocols within care coordination and how to achieve that. We also would like to share about the CSE-IT tool. This is a very important tool. It needs to be used responsibly and in the best interest of the child. So we are working closely with DFPS. We're being mindful of the information, how to use the tool, what to do with the tool. And so the other thing we're working on right now is we're going to create an advocacy framework. You know, Candice did mention trainings. Trainings are so very important in this space. Texas is a huge state. Sex trafficking looks different in every area of Texas. And so we want to provide vetted, good training across the entire network. And a lot of that learning will be through webinars online, but also in-person webinars and teachings in their area. You know, there are a lot of people and a lot of stakeholders in this space. We want to make sure that we support them, we help fill in the gaps, and that we don't duplicate services or get in the way.
Super, thank you. Is there anything else that either of you want to say as it relates to the CASA tool?
With the CASA, I mean, I would just add we're working with Lighthouse. So if local programs hear about Lighthouse, you know, we are working with them kind of as the collector of the information for that CASA tool. We do have some, you know, signature pages and different things that we're trying to work with programs to get, again, as Rhonda said, to really be mindful of the collection of that information and keep it confidential. So if there's any questions that anyone has about CASA or Lighthouse, you know, they can reach out to Rhonda or I. And Texas CASA is offering training quarterly on the CASA tool for CASA staff specifically. The tool is, we're not intending for volunteers to do the tool, but volunteers can definitely speak to their supervisor if they think that this screen should be done for a young person that they're an advocate for.
The only thing I add to that is that we are working on protocols for I've talked to several programs about how they are implementing the CASA tool, and what we're trying to do is take the best protocols from all of our CASA programs that are currently working in this space. And for the other CASA programs that want to get started, this is going to give them a how-to, you know, the best practices and how to implement it within their framework.
Excellent, thank you. So we have great tools. We've got a great resource in Rhonda. We have a great vision for what it is we're trying to accomplish. And of course, as CASA volunteers, there's a great role out there for their service in this arena. Just based on the conversation you've shared, I'm sure there might be other questions that people might have. Where can people go, or who can they contact to learn more?
So definitely contact CASA ACTs at texascasa.org. And what that Texas CASA ACT stands for is ACTs is Anti-Child Trafficking. It's an acronym and a call to action. And so it's a play on the phrase, see something, say something. And so we want our CASAs to be educated and trained on what are the red flags, what should they look for. And not only that, but when you see a red flag, you know exactly what to do. There's a plan of action for you to take. And in this space, we're not only talking about sex trafficking only by definition. We know that our CASA volunteers support youth and children who have experienced exploitation and trafficking in all of its forms, which includes child pornography. And so we need to provide a way for the program and the volunteer, once they've been appointed to a child who's been trafficked, that they know what is the best way to advocate for them, with them, not for them, but with them, because that's very important to bring in the survivor and help her work within the program to advocate for herself. Their needs are very, very different. And so we want it to be survivor-centered. We want it to be trauma-informed. And so this CASA ACTs, it's kind of a twofold framework, right? I mean, we're working on programs to teach them how to become involved in their area. And then we're also working on CASA policies and how to support the volunteers and their staff. And so Dallas CASA even has a high-risk youth model. And so volunteers have additional training that they take in child sex trafficking. But you know, Texas is a huge, huge state, and not every program has the same resources. So we want to make sure that we develop options for programs across the entire state and for all programs.
Super. So scaled options, scaled approaches to intervention. And the only thing I would say, Rhonda, that I just want to move what you said a little bit on a needle to say, people always expect the her, but there's the him.
Yeah.
Young men are exploited as well. And so we want to make sure that any viewer understands that. Don't just look to the possibility of it being a female, it could be a male as well. So we really want to make sure that gets out there. And again, CASA ACTs at texascasa.org. If somebody wants more information. Are there any other closing thoughts that either of you would like to share?
Again, I am just extremely thrilled to be part of the Texas CASA family, and I'm excited to get to work.
Thank you. Candice, anything?
I don't think so, Vicki. Just thank you for offering this time for us. You know, the more awareness we can bring, the more discussions we can have, the better. So thank you.
Exactly. Well, you guys are shining a bright light on a very important issue. And as this is the first Conversations with CASA for the new year of 2022, I can't believe we're here. I want to say that the light you're shining not only on this issue, but the light you shine in everything that you do and CASA volunteers across the network do is what we need to take us through 2022. So thank you both for being here. Thank you, viewers, for watching today. I hope you're able to take away some really good information and follow up on the resources that are going to be provided. And keep an eye out for the training in your area. Looking forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with CASA.